So I'm not really, shall we say, the biggest fan of F1 as far as my sort of knowledge of of sort of F1 racing it goes. Is car goes zoom, and the fastest car that goes zoom wins essentially. um, that's as far as my sort of F1 knowledge really goes. But of course, with the war in Ukraine, um, there would normally be a Russian uh, Grand Grand Prix. And of course, normally, about these Grand Prix throughout the season, and obviously they do one in Russia. But of course, and I think quite rightly so, it has been cancelled. Certainly for the foreseeable future, so long as sort of the situation in Ukraine is going on. And I think that is sort of right to do. But of course, the organisation that runs the sort of the F1, I suppose, said, "Oh, can we have a replacement? Can we do this somewhere else?" And again, this is where Brexit has once again popped up and reared its very interesting head, because it turns out some of the big teams are based here in the UK. And of course, what does that mean? If you've got to transport your materials of what you would need so that you can get your car to go zooming round the track as fast as possible, you've got to move materials from the UK to the EU. And of course, you know what that means: paperwork, time, and all kinds of potential crazy delays. And what has this led to? Well, it has led to basically a potential replacement to this, to the Russian Grand Prix being now in Europe, being completely and utterly cancelled because essentially the current Brexit agreements that we have made it completely unviable. So before we go diving into this, please do remember to hit that like and share and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and our donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So on with this. So this comes from the trans.info. And this is a transport and information news site. But there you go. So yeah, the wonderful world of bizarre news outlets that you find when I've been covering Brexit. It's very interesting. So anyway, this is their article on this. So, how Brexit made the Russian F1 Grand Prix replacement in Europe unviable. Earlier this week, Formula One announced that there would be no replacement for the Russian F1 Grand Prix on the 2022 calendar. Multiple media reports of this announcement also stated that a European race between the Italian and Singapore GPs was unviable due to the EU freight rules. While that is technically true, a spokesperson for DHL, the F1's official logistical provider, told trans.info that it is post-Brexit carbonage limitations that are actually the issue. So once again, it's these we've heard, or you've probably heard these things pop up before. These cabotages are like basically paperwork, to say the least, that are quite big things. If you've ever seen, I think it's what's his name now, Clarion the Euro carrier, has shown off before just how big these like pieces of paperwork, and I think it's really big. They're about that thick when you look at them. So anyway, it continues. Followers of the F1 will be no doubt familiar the fact that the Russian Grand Prix was cancelled following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And ever since its cancellation, there has been speculation as to whether the race could be replaced with an alternative in Europe or the Middle East. However, on Wednesday, Formula One confirmed that there would be no replacement. Following this announcement, multiple media reports stated that the reason for the replacement race could not take place with the EU was EU freight rules. When breaking the story on Sky Sports News on Wednesday afternoon, a presenter said this: EU freight rules made the European option unviable. Teams would have to return to their UK base, of course, and a lot of them are based around Oxfordshire, or McLaren is based near Woking in Surrey, they would then have had to repack, and a bit of logistics nightmare is the reality. The Guardian also wrote something similar. EU freight rules would have required teams to return to their factories, unpack, and repack to meet regulations. As we said, this is the nightmare that these new rules have made. This has prompted, again, the question as to what EU freight rules caused this issue. There are numerous freight regulations that apply to EU member states, most notably the recent mobility package, which requires trucks to return to base every 8 weeks. However, Trans.info can reveal that the stumbling block is in fact the limitation in the UK's post-Brexit agreement with the UK. The UK having a limitation in its post-Brexit agreements? Shocking, surely not, you know. After being approached for a comment regarding the aforementioned report, a spokesperson for the Deutsche Post or DHL told Trans.info, saying, the articles are talking about European Cabotage's rules, which came into place for all UK teams once Brexit was ratified at least 2 years ago. The Cabotage rules, Cabotage rules which limit how many domestic freight transports can be conducted after transporting a load into another country, are contained within the EU-UK Trade and Cooperation Agreement. In short, the issue is that the British registered hauliers are restricted to one cabotage movement within the EU. And in contrast, hauliers from EU member states can conduct 2 movements into the UK and up to 3 within the EU. Therefore, by leaving the European single market, Britain has reduced the amount of cabotage that its road transport operators can conduct in the EU. And interestingly, there is a period on the F1 calendar whereby there are 3 races week after week in Europe. Between August the 26th and September the 11th, the Belgian, the Dutch, and the Italian GPs will take place. And therefore, it is challenging, but not logistically possible, for the UK-based F1 teams to briefly head home before returning to another European race. However, the requirement to return to the UK as a result of the cabotage restrictions does, of course, add extra costs, making a race undesirable for a number of teams. Concerned hauliers have also advised recently of the effect of the cabotage relations. This year, the UK's Department for Transport, or the DfT, admitted that concert hauliers also didn't have as much EU market access as before, as the UK government failed to negotiate special agreements for this sector. And we've talked about how troubled musicians are having over all this. So specialist hauliers who carry equipment for cultural events are not even able to continue operating as before due to their reliance on these cabotage movements. During the negotiations on the TCA, the UK did request special agreements for this sector, but the EU did not agree to this, says a draft DfT consultancy document. Well, it's not that the EU didn't agree to this, it's that the UK didn't bring this up. You know? And of course, tried to getting around this problem, the UK government recently allowed vehicles to be switched between GB and EU operator licenses. Although this decision will facilitate better EU access in the event for event hauliers that have been had post-Brexit, entries will be needed to be established in the EU first, costing additional money and time. So big loss to all the F1 fans out there, but that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, unfortunately. And we did say, going all the way back to again, not only 2020, but again, 2018, 2017, Brexit would cause a lot of unintended consequences. And if you're McLaren, or who are the other team? McLaren and can't remember who the other team were now. Yeah, but we'll just go with McLaren. But if you're McLaren, I suppose the real question is to you now, do you stay in the UK? Ultimately, the answer is no, because it's now costing you a whole extra amount of cash and time and money and in paperwork to be able to do this transportation. So it probably won't be long before we see McLaren move its UK-based operations probably to Europe. Because as you've seen, you've got 3 back-to-back races there. What was it? The Belgium, the Netherlands, and the Italian Grand Prix in like a 3-week back-to-back space. And then they're having to go to there, then go back, unpack, repack, then back, then unpack, repack. And again, that will cost a whole amount of extra money that they didn't have to pay before. So it would not surprise me if before too long, McLaren just goes, this is just unsustainable. It's just not going to work. We're just going to move our operation into the EU somewhere. It would not surprise me if we saw that sooner or later. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.